Okay, I think ads are done, right? So let's check this out. We got every old god explained in 20 minutes. This is the video I needed because I don't know what the heck is going on with this, but going into war with him seems like a pretty good idea to understand the old god. Plural. Let's check it out.
I can taste the essence of your soul. It is sweet.
In the beginning of the entire Warcraft universe, the Void Lords existed. Ephemeral and endlessly powerful entities of shadow whose ultimate goal is to consume the entire universe in darkness. The Void Lords manifested countless beings called the Old Gods, known as the Shath-Yar in their language, and they hurled them across the cosmos. The Old Gods that landed and embedded themselves in Azeroth were Y'Shaarj, Cthulhu, Yogg-Saron, and N'Zoth. From their organic matter, their void servants, the Naraki and the Aekir were born, and during this primordial stage on Azeroth, the Old Gods fought each other and the elemental forces across.
How did the Void Lords create the old gods? Like, how does that math out? Right? Like, you're a Void Walker, you're hanging out in space, and then you all of a sudden craft Cthulhu? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Does that make any sense? They didn't. It's a psyop. Okay. You got to spec into it. Explanation is the next expansion. Void Lords can't be physical unless they kill the matter around them. They didn't. It's fiction. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the fiction. You know what I'm saying?
Across the world, which they would eventually enslave. This conglomeration of void forces would be called the Black Empire, and if they continued their work, they would surely corrupt the world soul sleeping within Azeroth. But one day, the Titans were floating around space, inspecting their sleeping siblings until...
Oh my goodness!
Okay, panic mode. Azeroth is rumored to be one of the most powerful world souls, and it's on the brink of being corrupted. And the Titans are so powerful that they can't really fight the Old Gods directly without destroying the world in the process. So they created the Titan Keepers and the Titan Forged, which are like their little mini-me robot servants, and they fought the Black Empire and banished the enslaved elementals into Titan-created elemental planes. While the elements were locked in their planes, the Titans gave them a mobile phone with a very cool game. A game with over 800 champions.
Okay, alright, okay, I respect it.
Filled with intense PvE and PvP content that rewards players for their tactical genius.
Alright.
You know it, you love it. It's Raid Shadow Legends, and there's some cool content brewing within the game right now. Now, what I like about Raid is there's an actual sense of challenge to it. You can't roll over every single enemy in the game. You're gonna have to build your character's skills, test out strategies, and it really makes it so that you can feel a sense of progression when you play this game.
Okay.
If you haven't started playing, now is a great time. The long-awaited Ninja Champion is coming back, and in order to get this devastating hero, you'll need to click the link in the description or scan the QR code, and then enter the promo code Ninja Returns in-game, and if you're an existing player, you can get the Ninja Pack for free in the in-game shop. Click the link in the description to scan the QR code and get some huge bonuses to get started.
There it is.
Like the epic support champion Tagore, and at level 15, the high elf champion Tayrel. You can find me playing Raid with my in-game name, Platinum Wowza, and you can join my clan, the Platinum Pals. Thank you, Raid Shadow Legends, for sponsoring this video. Okay, back to the war against the Old Gods and the Titan creations.
I respect
The end of the war was going really well for the Titans, except when it came to dealing with Y'Shaarj, the seven-headed Old God that inhaled courage and breathed fear.
You cannot succeed. Your cause is hopeless.
This Old God was far too strong for the Titan Forge to face, so Amenthul, the leader of the Titans, reached down and pulled Y'Shaarj out of the ground like a weed.
All that you have accomplished, all that you have won. Yes.
Pretty good visual.
And while the old god was dead,
Okay.
the purging left a giant open wound in Azeroth, which would later turn into the Well of Eternity, an unlimited font of the world's power. From the remains of the slain old god, 7 entities called the Prime Shah manifested themselves and would settle in the land that would later be called Pandaria.
Embrace your rage.
Okay.
Your fear. Gorge your hatred. Voice your doubts.
These 7 Prime Shah would not truly awaken until the Horde and the Alliance showed up in the Mist of Pandaria expansion, where they harbored all of these negative emotions as they beat the shit out of each other on this newly discovered continent. During their imperialistic rampage, they also ran into the Mantid, who worship Yogg-Saron, but the essence of this old god would be no more when Garrosh consumed his heart and is later defeated. Okay, rewind a bit back to when Yogg-Saron was being ripped out of the earth. Clearly doing this to all of the old gods was not going to work. The Titans' new solution to getting rid of the old gods without damaging Azeroth was to simply imprison them.
Okay. Put him
So
in a jail
all
cell.
over the world,
All
the
right.
Titan Forge created monolithic facilities to contain the essence of these old gods. Cthulhu was trapped in Qiraji, Yogg-Saron in Ulduar, and N'Zoth deep in the ocean in a place named the Circle of Stars. Okay, crisis averted.
Wait, so Ulduar was a prison? Okay, so why did we have to go in and kill him then? Why not just leave him in there?
But the Titan Keepers and their minions were not satisfied just yet. They wanted answers. Who were these old gods? Where did they come from? How did they get so powerful?
For
And
the
most
loot.
importantly, is there a way to uncorrupt them? Maybe they could kill these parasites without destroying Azeroth. In order to find these answers, the Titan facility called Uldir was created. Within this research fortress, they meticulously experimented with the essence of the old gods. They messed with their pH levels, they played them relaxing Titan music, they busted it down sexual style in order to quell their corruption,
What are
and
we
put them through
watching?
rigorous therapy sessions to deal with their negative emotions. None of these methods worked. In fact, through
Okay.
their experimentation, they created a 5th artificial old god named G'huun.
Oh, I remember this. I remember watching the Race to World First. Everyone's like, G'huun, this boss is so annoying, and we had to watch Method and who was against Method in the G'huun race, and it's like so annoying to watch 1,000 pulls on this guy, and it was like mathematically impossible and all this. Yeah.
The rot runs through your veins. Let it spread.
Their research made this old god prolific in its ability to spread its corruption, so they imprisoned it like all the other old gods.
My whispers will liquefy your mind.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of years later, G'huun would later be freed by the cultist blood trolls, and its moldy, bloody corruption threatened to spread all across Azeroth, but of course, we killed it. And call me a
Hype.
hipster, but G'huun is by far my favorite old god. Its model is just disgustingly amazing. I mean, the fight starts with its little butthole mouth poking out of a wall, and then it births itself out of it later in the fight, and then you shoot it with a giant laser and it wiggles around in pain in an oddly adorable way. I mean, just how can you...
Platinum WoW Light? Like, those are all good things? Are we trolling? I feel like, dude, out of all the Race to World Firsts I've watched, this one was the most annoying, personally. I mean, I'm not like a PvE or lore expert, so, geez, who cares what I think? But, I mean, really? Wow.
Can you not like that? Big fan and super underrated, I think.
He's being sarcastic. He has to be being sarcastic. There's no way.
Okay, back to all the old gods being imprisoned.
Okay.
In Ulduar, the old god Yogg-Saron was trapped. But as I explain this story, you'll quickly discover the Keepers and the Titan Forged did an awful job at keeping the old gods contained.
Okay.
Even though Yogg-Saron was imprisoned, his blood still flowed freely through the continent. This corruptive blood hardened into an ore called Serenite, and it was through this Serenite he was able to whisper to his imprisoners, the Titanic Watchers, and he drove them into madness, which led to a whole bunch of infighting between them. Yogg-Saronite would also corrupt the monolithic dragon
Yogg-Saronite. Saronite ore. I never knew that.
In Galakrond, and then far later, it would corrupt the world tree of Andrasil, and through that, he was able to manifest the Emerald Nightmare. So he's had a lot of impact on the Warcraft universe, despite being in prison this whole time.
That's why we have to kill him, man. Yeah.
And Yogg also spread the Curse of Flesh, turning the Titanforged into fleshy humanoids to make them even easier to corrupt, and he also gave them sex organs so they could fuck. I feel like people skip over that part a lot. So despite Yogg-Saron being imprisoned, he was able to manipulate and corrupt the world around him through his solidified blood around the continent. Yogg-Saron would remain locked in his prison until Cho'Gall snuck into Ulduar and weakened his prison. This is honestly one of the most random events in Azeroth, and isn't really explained all too well in-game, and any mention of Cho'Gall or the appearance of the Twilight Hammer cult is very brief in the expansion. You would think that weakening an Old God's prison should have a bit more storytelling surrounding it. His influence on the Keepers strengthens, and players have to go into Ulduar, knock some sense into these Titan creations, and defeat Yogg-Saron. And during the Yogg-Saron fight, players are transported to visions of Azeroth's past that may suggest the Old God has influenced these events, like the creation of the Dragon Soul, the assassination of King Lane in the First War, and the Lich King torturing Bolvar.
That's pretty cool.
One funny thing I gotta mention is that Yogg-Saron proclaims himself as the God of Death.
Bow down before the God of Death!
Now, the weird thing about this is that Yogg-Saron doesn't really practice any sort of necromancy or necrotic magic, and he doesn't really show up in the afterlife, the Shadowlands at all, and any sort of connection you would make to him and death is kind of a stretch, so it's kind of like Yogg-Saron just calls himself that because he thinks it sounds badass.
Self-proclaimed God of Death, but really he's the one dying, so yeah.
And the explanation for his self-given title, yeah, it kind of just stops there.
Look upon the true face of death, and know that your end comes soon.
Okay.
Death is close.
All the way over in what would later be named Silithus, the old god Cthulhu was imprisoned in Qiraji. Thousands of years later, the Aedkir would travel to this side of the continent, and some of them resettled in Qiraji and were turned into the Qiraji in Silithid because of Cthulhu's influence. He even turned some of them into hot, sexy bug ladies, because he likes that sort of thing. Cthulhu and the Qiraji would slowly spend their time regaining their strength until they were reawakened by the Night Elves during the War of the Shifting Sands. This was a grave mistake, and the Night Elves had that crap beaten out of them, and eventually the Dragonflights had to step in and re-imprison Cthulhu and his bugs. It wouldn't be till later in Classic WoW the gates of Qiraji would be reopened, players go in and defeat Cthulhu. Later on, Cho'Gall attempted to revive Cthulhu, but this was mentioned in the Medan comic book series, so let's not talk about it, nor do I think it's canon. And look, honestly, I feel bad for Cthulhu because he really does kind of nothing. I mean, yeah, his army did beat the Night Elves, but if your only win is against a race whose main trait is their ability to lose every single battle they've been in for thousands of years, yeah, no, I don't really think that's impressive.
Damn, bro, he's going hard on the Night Elves. Jeez.
The lack of story or world building surrounding Cthulhu can mainly be attributed to him being the first old god introduced to players and then defeated in Classic WoW. And during Classic, grand narratives delving deep into the universe's history was not all that common as it is now. Cthulhu is just a bug overlord with a giant eye because Lord of the Rings just came out and all-seeing eyes are badass.
Is that maybe that's what happened? Yeah. We talked about the timing of WoW and related to the success of WoW, and like all of our generation loved Lord of the Rings and watched it, and then WoW 2004, the timing, that the craving for that kind of like role-playing experience, you could be a dwarf like Gimli, or you could be that night elf or elf archer, right? And it's like you can embody these things that you saw on the screen, so makes a lot of sense.
Throughout a large majority of WoW's history, the old god N'Zoth has been a grand mystery hidden to players. The Circle of Stars is the name of his prison, located deep within the ocean. And N'Zoth is one of those characters that has very little screen time, but has had a huge influence on Azeroth. It was N'Zoth who had corrupted Neltharion and transformed him into Deathwing and had him shatter the world.
He gave himself to the deep places. He gave himself to me.
N'Zoth made a bargain with Queen Azshara and turned her and her highborn followers into the Naga.
Let the tides draw you into my dream.
He influenced Ragnaros and Alakir to fight for him so they could be free from their elemental prisons.
My dream has become your own.
And all of this was to bring forth the Hour of Twilight, a future where the old gods reign supreme and end all life.
The hour approaches when all eyes shall be opened.
But of course, he fails in bringing forth such a future. It's hard to convey how much mystery and hype was behind the final Old God at this point. We didn't know N'Zoth's location, voice, or even what N'Zoth looked like. In fact, the first time the Old God was ever revealed to players was in Hearthstone in 2016 in the Whispers of the Old God expansion.
Okay.
Yes, the reveal of Warcraft's most elusive and influential Old God was in a spin-off card game instead.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I miss Hearthstone so much. Such a fun game.
N'Zoth playing a more upfront role in Warcraft's story wouldn't be until the Battle for Azeroth expansion. During the beginning of the expansion, N'Zoth and Queen Azshara sent their forces to Kul Tiras to corrupt its denizens, and in the Crucible of Storms mini-raid, we discover that an entire portion of N'Zoth's physical body is underneath the Shrine of Storms. We really have no idea how it got there, but you shouldn't be surprised an essence of an old god is under a giant temple in the shape of a tentacle monster.
Makes a lot
it
of
was from
sense,
this
yeah.
dark den of old god influence that Xal'atath made a bargain with N'Zoth to free her from the Blade of the Black Empire with the help from a clueless player character. Horde players then take the Blade of the Black Empire and go to Nazjatar to defeat Queen Azshara, and the Alliance follows them. They
Okay.
quickly discover that fighting fish people in the middle of the ocean is not the best idea. Queen Azshara leads players to her eternal palace and deep into the ocean near N'Zoth's prison. In order to defeat Queen Azshara, players use their empowered Hearts of Azeroth necklaces, which inadvertently disables the wards, frees N'Zoth from his prison, and he steals Azshara away.
All that were sleeping shall be awakened.
Oh, This is a big deal. This is the first time an old god has ever been freed from their prison. This is N'Zoth, the Lord of Ny'alotha, the god of the deep, the corruptor, the deep one, at full power, unleashing the madness of the old gods.
Oh, I remember doing this. They were called visions, right? You go through the city of Stormwind and there was like a timer and you had to like kill a bunch of things to power up your dude, and then you get corrupted gear, and with the corrupted gear you got stronger. Yeah, I remember that.
Cross
I did that.
Azeroth. Which all sounds cool, but gameplay-wise, we really just got horrific visions, which are alright, and fought N'Zoth's minions in old zones with different skyboxes in them. But did you know there were plans for something far more grand? In the game's files, players discovered an incomplete version of the Nazjatar zone, where more than half the zone was N'Zoth after he was freed from his imprisonment. Like, the old god is so big that he just is the zone. Unfortunately, this idea was scrapped in development, and Blizzard did try to convey the scale of N'Zoth by having his tentacles and body be represented in the skybox, which is cool, but the idea of having him physically be the zone is such a cool idea
That would have
I
been
hope
pretty
they
rad,
try and
yeah.
execute in future content patches. So the battle for Azeroth
been
ends
dope.
with us venturing to the alternate old god reality called Ny'alotha and killing N'Zoth with a laser beam and, he just dies. And yes, N'Zoth is dead. There was a theory for a while that the old god survived, but nope. Really dead.
He's dead.
Along with all the other old gods. Now that being said, during Dragonflight, we actually traveled back in time to when the Black Empire reigned over Azeroth, and there were new whispers from N'Zoth hinting at our future.
I know you. What you were. What you will yet be. Deeper its roots will reach, welcoming our embrace. With many eyes,
Hype.
they will see again.
Spider Queen hype.
They will drink and be uplifted. You will follow him to the deep places. The dark waters will flow in his way.
Sheesh.
Her dreams sing beneath the surface. Our dreams. Our song.
This could be N'Zoth from back in time, or the lingering essence of the old god in the modern time, or we really don't know right now. What I'm trying to say is the entire concept of death to an eldritch, mysterious entity like an old god is not really some black and white concept.
True.
At some point in WoW...
Alright, guys, I have a really, maybe dumb, simple question. But I want to know the answer. Is all of the Warcraft lore in the books already explained, and like you could spoil it, like you already know kind of what happens, or is it still being written currently? Each expansion they come out with like books, and then the expansion drops to kind of go along. No, not all of it. Okay, so that's what I thought. So a lot of these things, there's, you know, we're kind of on like a cliff, what's cliffhanger? A cliffhanger. You're being edged, and we don't really know the next until the next book comes out, and then they have to kind of like make it up. All right, so there's new content being released all the time. Yes, we're all okay. Yeah, so we're all on the same page. All right, cool. I just wanted to clear that because I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that.
WoW's history, there could be a random MacGuffin item or event, and then poof, they're all alive in Azeroth again, and it wouldn't really seem too far-fetched. Very fan-servicey? Definitely. But honestly, I wouldn't mind it. Specifically, I'd love to see the return of Cthulhu in a comeback raid that's kind of akin to Ragnaros' return in Firelands. And you know what? Yogg-Saron, he can come along too.
Yippee!
And those are all the old gods on Azeroth. Now there is speculation of Xal'atath being an old god, or perhaps there's more old gods on the other side of Azeroth, but all of those theories are just speculation at the time of making this video. Oh, I almost forgot. There's also a random unnamed old god in Outland. It's not expanded upon at all, or ever mentioned again. And yeah, that's all the old gods. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. You can jump into the game by scanning the...
I feel like it's sometimes annoying as a consumer to, you go into this patch or expansion, you kill an old god, they're dead, and then they just like come back, and then you kill them again and they come back, and it's like, this villain you didn't actually kill, they got away and survived and came back. Sometimes it can be kind of cool and badass, but when you overdo it, especially if they come back multiple times, it's just like, okay, so I didn't actually kill him last time. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I feel like you got to be careful there. Yeah, you got to be careful there and not overdo it and just bring them back over and over. Then it just feels like you're not doing anything. It's like, what's the point then? They're just going to come back again. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, cheese. That helped me a lot. I'm going to be honest. Even after watching this video, I don't feel like, oh man, I 100% got it. I feel like I'm caught up a little bit, but I'm still I'm almost like more confused in the sense of like, wow, there's so much I don't know. you know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, that's all right. We're like, it's like scratching the surface a little bit. You ever do Sunwell? Yeah, I have. It's been a long time. It's been a long time.